Lost on the freeway. This must be LA. Tired and lonely, with no real place to stay. Is this the future? And where I'm gonna be? Last night it hit me, when I had this crazy where I'm gonna waking up in your house on a San Francisco street. We tune out all the nasty weather, and it's something funny, you and me. You were intriguing, just looking at a magazine. Like when I first saw you back in 2003. And you walked over and said you don't have to be alone. I don't have a crystal ball, there's no way that I could have known. I've been waking up in your house on a San Francisco street. We tune out all the nasty weather, and it's something funny, you and me. Waking up in your house on a San Francisco street. We tune out all the nasty weather, and it's something funny, you, something funny, you and me. Oh. Waking up in your house on a San Francisco street. We tune out all the nasty weather, and it's something funny, you and me. Waking up in your house on a San Francisco street. We tune out all the nasty weather, and it's something funny, you, something funny, you and me. San Francisco street, you and me. Something funny, you and me. You and me. San Francisco street, you and me. Oh. San Francisco street, you and me. Something funny, you and me. You and me. San Francisco street, you and me.
Hi, everyone. We are so glad that you could join us today. My name is Sabrina Snow, and I am the Communications Manager, Secretary, and Board Member of Mindset Liberia. We are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to keep the lives of Liberian people in their hands by creating initiatives in education and agriculture to create growth and prosperity. I am so thrilled to be here with you all today for Honda's virtual book launch, and I know that she's so excited about her release of Stigmatized. We met in undergrad in Dr. Stead's Sustainable Management course. Dr. Stead, I think you're in the audience there somewhere. And I'm so glad that Dr. Stead allowed me to select Honda to be in my group for a class project. Ever since then, it's been an absolute luxury watching Honda grow from college student to humanitarian professional, and then now getting to see her be a published author is just, I couldn't be more proud of you, Honda. Today, we celebrate the release, and I personally enjoyed reading this book for just the universal messages, the lessons that Honda teaches us as she explains her stories and her memories kind of throughout the years. The biggest lesson that the book taught me is that you really don't know what other people are experiencing or have experienced and what they can bring to the table because of that. Honda's path is so unique, just going from the beginning with being diagnosed with tuberculosis to battling that and the stigma attached to it, and then finally mustering up the courage and reclaiming her identity and kind of sharing her story. I think that's something that really will inspire others. Honda touches also on her views for other types of stigma and kind of how that changed her perspectives of others and kind of how they go through personal journeys with shame as well. I do want to take a moment real quick to just remind everyone that Honda's book can be found online officially. Since today is the official launch date, you can find it on major websites or anywhere that you would shop for books normally. So Amazon, Target, Walmart, Apple Books, again, just anywhere that you would normally find a book online. Stigmatized is available right now for a special rate of $1.99 until August 13th. So you have about 30 days and then it'll go back up to the normal rate. So if you've already purchased it and you're thinking about getting it for a family member or friend for maybe an upcoming holiday or birthday, go ahead and grab it while it's at this special rate. We also want to say that Stigmatized has just become the #1 release on Amazon, and we want to continue this journey for Honda and her goal of getting her to be an Amazon's best-selling author. So be sure whenever you're finished reading the book to leave comments and feedback so that we can help her achieve that goal. We have an excellent lineup of guest speakers for you guys today that will share their impressions of the book, discuss tuberculosis and the attached stigma, and then hopefully some potential solutions. We also have a fireside chat with the author herself and a chance for you guys to win her book. And then we've set aside some special time at the end for questions. We really want this event to be as interactive as possible, so make sure to stay logged in and engaged until 10 o'clock. I will be closely monitoring the chat, and so will the tech team. So be sure to drop your questions, however it is that you're streaming this event. Now let's invite Honda for some opening remarks. It's a pleasure for me to introduce you guys to her. Honda was born and raised in Mongolia during the transition from communism to democracy, and she was educated in the United States and Europe. As a survivor of tuberculosis, Honda brings a unique perspective on the toxic yet universal narratives and personal battles associated with those. Honda earned a master's from New York University in public administration and a bachelor's degree from East Tennessee State University in economics. Today, she's working as a global humanitarian, specializing in refugee empowerment. Honda, take it away. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina, so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining my book's virtual celebration. I am today overwhelmed with many different emotions and feelings. I am certainly very excited, and I'm incredibly humbled, nervous, and particularly I'm very grateful because many people who supported me on this journey are here today in this virtual room, including my family members, my friends, my wonderful colleagues at the IRC, my former colleagues, and my mentors, my professors. They're all here, so I want to give a special shout out to you all for supporting me and helping me turn this dream project into a reality. I've been working on this project for over a year now, and This has been incredibly rewarding and very pleasant experience for me as I finish writing this book. And it has been also very challenging, actually. There were times where I felt I just couldn't get myself up for typing even a single word. I couldn't articulate what I was thinking, my feelings, emotions down on paper. There were times where I cried and laughed when I wrote certain parts of the book. And I felt also shocked and surprised during certain times because I discovered so many new things about myself that I didn't know in the past. So it was a very surprising process for me as well. And it has been incredibly rewarding journey where I learned a lot. So I really hope you all enjoy this book, and I hope you all will feel those different emotions that I dedicated into this book when you have the physical copy or the Kindle ebook in your hands. And I would like to conclude my opening remarks with one big lesson that I learned at the end of this book project. I realized that there's a lot of unlearning for me to do to continue growing as a person. And I hope many of you will resonate with that, because in different societies, we have a lot of cultural norms. Sometimes that can be toxic. And unfortunately, a lot of us get affected by those cultural norms unintentionally. Our judgments, assumptions, belief systems get affected. And unfortunately, that creates toxic environments, enables these negative environments such as stigma, silence, and shame. So I would like to encourage you all to challenge your belief systems, challenge your blind spots, and always advocate for those in need. So with that, I will hand it back over to Sabrina. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Hande. We are actually just going to go right into things. I have a fireside chat for you I'm going to get started with, and then we have your friend Timur that's going to take things away. So my first question for you is, just congratulations. Again, I don't think that we can say that enough for just getting this thing started, right? This project has been, long coming for you and just has taken extraordinary discipline and focus. So help us better understand why you felt compelled to write this book, and then why now? What was the timing decision behind that during and coming out of a global pandemic?
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina, for the question. I would say the biggest reason why I wrote this book is actually a bit selfish reason. And that's because I really needed and wanted to help myself. I'm the type of person who sets really ambitious goals for myself, and I work really hard to achieve them. And while that's definitely a strength, I also realized that I was missing out on a lot of important reflections by processing my previous experiences and working on my emotional awareness and just doing the internal work that's really needed for continuously improving as a person. So I took on this project to really process my past experiences properly. And one of those key experiences that really needed to be processed in a healthy way was my experience battling tuberculosis. But more than the disease itself, I actually really wanted to process the stigma part, both social and also the internalized stigma, because stigma was affecting how I viewed myself and how I also viewed the world image. And I really needed to change that perspective in order to grow as a person and as a professional. So that's why I decided to jump into this project, sit with myself, with my thoughts, emotions, feelings, which you can probably all resonate with, that it's really uncomfortable process. So I took on this over a year-long process to really just articulate my feelings in the past experiences into words and sentences, paragraphs, and at the end, 373 long-page book. I still can't believe I wrote this long book, but yeah, and at the end of the project, I really feel more present than ever in life. And I just really am cherishing the fact that I'm making progress so that I don't feel this pressure to always achieve my goals, and also look back on my previous experiences to reflect on lessons learned and apply them for my future as well. And another big reason I wanted to write this book is to help others who are experiencing the similar experiences of stigma, shame, and silence. Even though my book is a personal journey battling tuberculosis and the stigma, it's universal and applicable to many different people. Whether that's whether if they are experiencing stigma due to different factors such as age, disability, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, you name it. So I hope my book will resonate with many of you, and hopefully it will help you kickstart your own reflection so that you can leverage your story to help others as well. So Sabrina, in a nutshell, I wrote this book to help myself and to help others. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I think just kind of digging into that a little deeper will help the audience understand, kind of be able to put their own like personal stories or journeys into that. And I think that's what makes it most relatable. So thank you. My next question is just, why stigmatized? Help us better understand why that title was so important for you to choose.
Thank you. Actually, when I explored different titles, and not just titles, different stories, different examples, different characters in my book, I spoke with a lot of people. I spoke with my family members, friends, acquaintances, role models. I spoke with a lot of people. And one of the common themes as advice that came across was pretty surprising for me. And that common advice was for me to avoid talking about the darker and the heavier side of my stories and experiences. And at the time, that really confused me because I wanted to share my experience in an honest way, but I was being encouraged to be positive and really focus on my achievements, my success, what I have been able to accomplish rather than what I went through. And that made me think, and that made me realize that as societies, we really idolize these positive things, right? These glamorous success, these dazzling achievements, money, reputation, success, all these amazing positive factors. But we at the same time, we demonize personal battles that we go through. People feel uncomfortable hearing about it, but they feel very comfortable about hearing about success and positive achievements, right? So I wanted to challenge that. Why do we have to hide what we are going through? Because our struggles and our personal battles are what enabled us to achieve our goals. So I wanted to be honest about my experiences. And if we keep clinging to these glamorous things without telling all these personal battles or struggles, it's going to be very toxic for people, particularly young people who look up to us as role models, right? Because there are certain things you can't achieve, regardless of how much you try, how much hard you work, because there are structural barriers, because there are privileges. You could face lack of access to education, financial stability. There are so many difficulties. And when younger people only look at those dazzling sides, they start setting these unrealistic expectations and create this fake pressure on themselves, right? And their mental health gets affected, for example. So it's really toxic. And we really need to challenge this toxic narrative around personal battles. And I wanted to challenge that with this title and intentionally chose this, saying stigmatized. And I hope my readers take away the message that our struggles are our stories and part of who we are. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that. I think that Hollywood and several other industries really just glamorize, the success stories, as you mentioned, but not necessarily the battles or kind of the darker, deeper stuff that really has to be experienced for you to get to the brighter side. So I think it's really beautiful that you explained that so well and that you decided to kind of take a very bold title for your book. So I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to pass this fireside chat over to Timur. Timur Abdullaif is going to interview you for the next several minutes. Hi Timur. We're wearing your red today too. We're matching. I love it. So just a quick introduction. Timur survived tuberculosis twice, and ever since he's become one of the most vocal activists for the rights of the people with TB. Timur is a co-founder and board member of TB People and the global network of people affected by TB. So welcome, Timur. I'm going to have you take things away with your 2 questions for Handa.
Yeah, thank you. It will be very quick, 2 questions, 40 minutes each maximum. Thank you very much, Sabrina. So I actually want to start my question from where you guys ended, and that is like glamorizing the challenges, the difficulties, the problems, the troubles, and just focusing at the success. Actually, I think it's interesting, but the success usually starts from the challenges. It's very rare, in my opinion, that you come to success without going through some hard times. And I myself, I wouldn't probably be here today without my personal experience. You, Handa, wouldn't be here today. So maybe you would have written a book, but maybe it would be like, I don't know, a book for kids or for refugees or something very humanitarian. I don't know. Just like maybe myself, I would be doing human rights only and not something with TB. But my question to you is actually it's somewhat in parallel to what I was saying. Like the book is called Stigmatized, but in the book you're speaking actually about your journey from being stigmatized to liberating yourself, to becoming destigmatized or destigmatizing your experience. So my question to you would be, what are the best and worst parts of both experiences, of both being stigmatized and having a stigmatized disease and liberating yourself from it? What are the best and the worst moments? Thank you.
Thank you. I love that question. Thank you, Timur. It's very contrasting, right? So I will start with the worst part. I would say that the worst part of feeling stigmatized is how it affected my view about myself. Thoughts about myself, how I viewed my image, and eventually it affected my self-confidence, and it goes down the hall of imposter syndrome and many other things, right? So the stigma concept issue started early, and started building up into this challenge of battling to really recreate myself and build my confidence over time, and just having this positive self-talk saying, you got this, Handa, you can do this, and all that stuff. So I would say the worst part is just how it impacted my view about myself and also the world as well, because I was conditioned to believe that stigmatization, silence, shame are the norms. Growing up in Mongolia, we have a lot of different cultural norms, and TB unfortunately doesn't have a good reputation here, and it's connected to many different myths and misconceptions, and how people believe that TB and that person's worthiness are connected, for example. And all this, I was conditioned to believe that it's the norm. It's how the world operates, right? And that's another worst thing that I would say stigma brought to me. And it took me years of really just leaving Mongolia and leaving home and just traveling across borders, going to Bulgaria, Poland, and then eventually United States, and also traveled to Uganda, and just seeing these different contexts. And then I realized that stigma is actually very universal. I saw stigma manifesting itself in many different contexts, in many different shapes and forms. So at that point, I realized it's universal, it's cross-cutting, but how it manifests itself is very different and localized. And that thought process really helped me to understand that it's not the norm. People should not be stigmatized, ashamed, and silenced for a challenge that they are going through. So at that point, I started challenging this norm. But before then, I was conditioned to believe it was the norm, and that's the worst part of the stigmatization. I would say for the destigmatizing part, the best part, right, is that I felt more empowered, and I started not only thinking about myself, but also thinking about others, because I started feeling really frustrated in a positive way. Because 10 years later, I visited the TB clinic that I was staying 10 years ago. And I spoke with the physician, And he told me many horrific stories of how teenagers, kids, little kids are going through stigma, shame, silence. They are afraid of sharing their stories, right? They're hiding. They're going through this difficult chemotherapy for years, some of them, right, for drug-resistant tuberculosis. And they still hide it to protect themselves, to protect their family's reputation. And I just felt really frustrated. I really didn't want those kids to go through that. So I wanted to do something about it. So I would say the best part of feeling destigmatized is just feeling empowered to not only speak about myself, my rights, but also others, those kids who are still struggling, who were in the exact same spot that I was 10 years ago. So I would say that's the best part.
Thank you. Well, you just killed my second question, to be honest, because you know, I was going to ask, like, so like listening to the best parts before you started speaking about kids, I was thinking, like, so do you really like have this kind of Stockholm syndrome that you think like, okay, that experience made you stronger, made you so passionate and go beyond than just being, you know, a TB survivor, but become an activist? And like, would you be interested to, like, you know, like maybe it's time to have like TB second time, or maybe it's time to have something else that I can do more activism? But you just killed it, because I cannot, after you spoke about kids, I cannot ask that question again. So probably I should ask something else, and I do have a question for you. So
okay.
my question would be, now that you are destigmatized, you wrote a book, and exactly, but this is not it, is it? And in your book, you're speaking about like you can feel that there is an ambition to do more. So what are you going to do more so that you help others destigmatize, you help others overcome the stigma, and maybe just end with TB altogether?
Right, yeah. Definitely my activism doesn't just end at this book project. My fellow TB survivor and activist Paulina, who will actually speak, she says stigma is my enemy and my weapon is my art. So for me, stigma is my enemy for sure, and my weapon, I think it will be very diverse. So this time it was writing, right? The next time, I think it will be a nonprofit. For example, Timur Abdullayev, who co-founded a first global regional network of TB survivors. And currently in Mongolia, there's no survivor network of people who are suffering from tuberculosis. And that's something I want to change, because there's no survivor network. That doesn't mean TB is not an issue in Mongolia. Actually, TB is such a big problem in Mongolia. And why there's no survivor network is because of stigma. People are afraid. When I shared about my book, so many people reached out to me asking, Handa, I had TB. I went through shame, stigma, silence. I still hide it from my family, from my in-laws, because I'm afraid of being ostracized. There's so many people in the dark, in silence, but they're afraid of speaking up because of stigma. And I want to change that. I want to start the Survivor Network, because somebody has to start speaking about it, right? Otherwise, silence is going to continuously, it's like a catch-22, right? Silence is going to continuously enable this stigma, and then stigma is going to nourish silence in return, right? So it's going to be this impossible circle that I want to really break and be the first to speak up. So that's something I have in mind. I'm not sure when I will do it. I need to take some break. As I mentioned, that I'm feeling very present now, and I'm not trying to really pressure myself to achieve, XYZ, which has been my lifestyle for a long time, and in some ways toxic. So I'm trying to change that. So that's one of my ambitions. And also another thing is, beyond tuberculosis, I also want to promote this culture that I name it survivor culture, or survivor concept, because when I spoke with Sabrina, I mentioned it, right? People glamorize success, but they rarely talk about personal battles. And when people start talking about those touchy topics or struggles, conversations become uncomfortable, right? I want to change that. I want to normalize talking about these battles, these struggles, and really promote this survivor culture, which I explain as someone who is, going through any challenges and overcoming that. That's a survivor, right? We all pull through difficult days with a smile. So we're all survivors. Why can't we celebrate all together, see the human in each other, and just advocate for each other, right? So I really want to do something also around survivor culture and just really promoting promote the normalization of struggles, personal battles, and change this toxic culture of just talking nonstop about positive stuff, because life is not always positive, right, Timur?
Absolutely. Life is, I cannot say what she is, but it's going to be censored. So yeah, and it's very similar to the winner culture that you're talking about, because winners are not the ones who never lose. Winners are the ones who never give up. So that's really what we should really nourish and promote. So thank you very much. I will come back later on in this event. So thank you for now. Sabrina, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Timur.
You are doing a fabulous job, Timur. Thank you. All right. So thank you guys so much for these engaging questions. I think, again, that this is really giving your viewers a better understanding kind of what your book is about and a little bit more of your story. It's really easy to kind of browse through things on social to kind of learn a little bit more about you, Hande, but I think that this is more personalized, and so I'm glad that we're doing this. Our next guest speaker, we are so excited about. Our first guest speaker is someone from Hande's native country, Mongolia, Dr. Uyun Sanjasarun, who is the chair of the Zorig Foundation, served as a member of the parliament for 5 terms, during which she was the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of Environmental and Green Development. In 2014, Uyun was elected as the first president of the United Nations Environment Assembly. So we just want to welcome you. Thank you so much for being a part of this virtual event, and I will let you take things away.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Hande, Bayrurgi, congratulations. It's really well done. Well done. What an achievement. I could feel so much positive energy, but also very constructive energies from you today, and so much determination. But I could also feel from your book as well when I read it. And I didn't know Hande until Hande approached me and then shared with me her draft book then. And when I first read Hande's book, I was really deeply moved. It brought me back to the early 90s when Mongolia was going through a major transition. We all sort of remember those days. It was, on one side, very interesting times. Mongolia was opening up. Democratic changes were sweeping across the country. But at the same time, they were very challenging, very difficult times. So I was very impressed by the depth of your book, Hande, by really I mentioned the determination and a lot of positive energy, but I could feel from a very young age, Hande, you had this absolute determination, and you knew very well, where your goals are. And I understand that if a person knows where one wants to go, that's 50% of things are done that one wants to do in life. So I think but more than that, I was really moved by by the story of your family, by how supportive they were throughout. There's not sometimes very happy, of course, but very challenging times as well. How so supportive to each other, despite the adversities that you've been going through. And you may, Hande, know, or you may not know, but I know very well the district that your family moved to in the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar, because I used to serve as a member of parliament for that constituency. So I could very much associate with problems and needs of the ordinary people there. And when I read in your book about, your journey to a school in Ulaanbaatar outskirts, and then how you were striving so hard to learn many things, including English. And I know that it's not very easy at all in those circumstances. So I could associate it very well. And I felt inspired myself, and I thought, goodness, so much inspiration for so many young people as well. The part I liked most in the book was when you, Hande, achieved one of your major goals, and of course I'm sure you've achieved a lot more. But when you graduate from your university in New York, and when your parents come to New York and attend the graduation ceremony, they must have felt so proud, and but also very happy too. So with regards to the stigma and then tuberculosis that you so openly speak about, I also felt myself, I can understand how difficult it is also to live, to have the stigma. When I had my first child, when my first child was born, he was born with Down syndrome, and he's now 18 years old. Very, and I'm very, of course, very, very happy, and he's a very happy young man now. Of course, with a lot of challenges, nevertheless. So I, of course, know very well the challenges of people with cognitive disabilities, but overall, the importance of, as you said, not being silent, but speaking up. So what I did with a lot of other parents that I'm talking about 18 years ago, we started speaking a lot about the challenges and what needs to be done. So we set up a parents support group. We then set up the first Special Olympics in Mongolia. And then I was so proud to see a lot of young athletes actually attending both a lot of events and competitions in Mongolia, but also internationally, the World Games, etc. So you're absolutely right, Handa. One has to turn those adversities into those challenges into something positive and good. And then the one thing that I like most about your attitude is that it's not only empowering yourself, but also empowering others. It's also not only helping yourself, but most importantly, helping others as well. And before I finish, I would like to wish you, but also every one of us, to find the changes, small shifts that will bring major changes in various systems that, the world is facing so many problems now that we need to contribute with solutions. And Handa, I think you are one of those solutions, and writing your book, your story, is bringing those changes in the world. And I know that you are also going to the next chapter in your life. So I wish you so much luck and so all the best with your next endeavors. You're such an inspiration, not only to young people, but also to us as well, to my generation. Thank you so much. I got so much positive energy, and I recommend everyone to read the Handa's books as well. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Uyun. We appreciate those words. Very sweet, very kind. All right, we're going to welcome our next guest speaker. Paulina Sinietkina is an artist, activist, and TB survivor from Russia. Paulina collaborated on Stigmatized and drew the 18 original powerful illustration for Handa's book and chapters. Paulina co-founded the first regional network of TB survivors called TB People with Tamor that we got to speak with earlier, and presented her artwork called Hold Your Breath at the United Nations in New York and Geneva. Her enemy, as Handa mentioned, is stigma, and her weapon is art. Welcome, Paulina.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. It's such a wonderful event. Congratulations to Handa and everyone involved, especially me also. I want to say a few words about the background story of how it all started for me and Handa, about our collaboration. Some of you over here know that I am an author of the brochure Tuberculosis and You, which was first published in Russian language in 2017. And basically it is a guide for patients, which is also written by patients with a very easy speaking language, which has all the information about tuberculosis. It is now been translated to 12 other languages. And more than a year ago, I got a message on my mail from some Mongolian doctor. His name was Dr. Tsot. And I don't know, maybe he's here and watching us live. I hope so. Because he convinced me that we should translate the book into Mongolian language. And in a very short period of time, the book was translated and published and distributed in Mongolian hospitals. So after a while, I got a message from some Mongolian girl who learned about me through Dr. Zocht and my brochure. This was Handa. And we called on Zoom, and I saw a very passionate activist. And to be honest, I simply recognized myself in the eyes of Handa. Eyes of Handa were burning, literally. She really wanted to do the dream project of her life. And I immediately realized that I need to introduce Handa to TB people, and that we should be all in one team. So here we are. After a lot of work, we're launching your book. And I know how it is important for you, how big achievement in your personal story it is. But I'm sorry, but I see also something else in here. All the events I mentioned before are bringing us into the chain. I made a project. It had effect. It brought us together, made us inspire each other, made us stronger. And your book will inspire somebody else. Your book will have the effect. And the work we do causes this chain of reactions, simply. When people get to know what we do, it inspires them, and they lose the fear to speak up. And this is the most important thing over here. Because that's how we fight stigma. And stigma is the main obstacle towards beating tuberculosis in the world. We beat the stigma and we beat TB, and this is what we do. I think we are driving the chain of the influence. This is very important, and I think we are the change. So thank you very much, Handa. I'm very happy to be a part of your project.
Beautiful. And I like how you connected that to the chain of events and how that's going to lead Handa in her journey to meeting more people and inspiring others as well. And maybe some other forms of art that they have that they want to share about their experience. So thank you, Paulina, for kind of making that connection and describing it a little bit to us today.
Thank you, Paulina.
Before we introduce our next guest speaker, we have great news to share on Handa's behalf. Stop TB Partnership, hosted by the United Nations, ordered 1,000 copies of Stigmatized for their conferences and meetings. This is amazing. We're hoping that this really gives people access to read more about her journey and just really stay connected through this community that you've cultivated, Handa. So excited. So thank you to Stop TB people, Stop TB and TB people for their support. They're hopeful that this project will kind of help raise awareness about the often neglected issues of TB and then, of course, the attached stigma.
Yes.
So now,
sorry, I would love to just give special shout out to Paulina Sinatkina, who actually connected me to all these wonderful people, including Timur Abdullayev, Dr. Luchika, Paul Thorne, Kate O'Brien from We Are TB in the United States. So thank you, Paulina, and Dr. Luchika, Timur, for ordering 1,000 copies and also helping ensure that TB survivors' voices are amplified, and just having me in your circle. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I will introduce our next guest speaker. She is actually the Executive Director of Stop TB Partnership, Dr. Luchika Dietu. She is a Romanian physician and public health expert. Hi. Who has devoted her career to helping support people affected by TB, and especially those most vulnerable, stigmatized, and living in impoverished communities. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Luchika, and we're going to go ahead and let you make your comments and impressions of the book.
Yeah, first of all, can you hear me? Good, because I had difficulties in hearing some of you at some points, and so first of all, I am really very happy to be able to be part of this event. And I am in a vehicle in my country, Romania, where I am, in a sort of leave. dealing with a lot of issues, but I couldn't miss this event. And I wanted to be here for you, Handa, but as well for all the people that will need to listen and hear, and as well for our other friend and TB.
Sabrina, I think we lost Dr. Lucica. We should start the next section until we.
And then we can come back to Dr. Lucica. Okay, great.
Good.
Actually, the next part of our program is selecting winners for your book giveaway. So very excited. We know that you guys have been interactive. I'm seeing messages pop up in the chat. So thank you guys so much for doing that. I think that it's really special that today is the 13th of July. And I think that we can kind of make that happen with one of the winners. Handa, what do you think if we select the 13th person that commented or, maybe asked a question?
Yeah, that sounds great. 13. I actually like that number also. So yeah, let's pick a 13th person to who commented or asked a question to give a free physical signed copy. And the next number, I was thinking 18 because Paulina drew these beautiful 18 illustrations for me, and I have 18 beautiful chapters also. So let's pick 18th as the next person to give the book.
Okay, great. And then it looks like Dr. Lucica is attempting to join us again. Do you want to put her on the screen, Tilmoon?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't give up. I never give up. And I am very resilient. And this is what you, Handa, did. And this is what Paulina did. And this is all TB survivors. We don't give up. So let me say 4 things as quickly as I can. First is that why is this so important? And I want to congratulate you for Handa for this, is that you basically put yourself together to go through all the disease, to go to all the stigma and isolation associated with it. And not only to conquer that, but to also make sure that you are very successful in your studies, in going in a foreign country with completely different background and culture, and to have the power to then sit and put all these things in writing, to be able to, share your experience and inspire the world and inspire the others that are going through this. So this is amazing. As a young lady coming from, a country that sounds very exotic for many of us, such as Mongolia, with so amazing people, this was great. The second great thing is, and I want to give the credit here to our friends from TB People, that I'm happy that we are able to have such a network in the TB community, that basically you were able to be embraced and become part of a large community of TB survivors and a great network such as TB People. And then to be in touch with another lady that I completely admire for her resilience and strength, which is Paulina, who then participated in doing these amazing drawings for the book. So we have a product, and this is my first message that I wanted to say. We have a product that we never had in TB, a book that is basically coming from TB survivors to describe what it means to be stigmatized, isolated, scared, and alone with this incredible disease. So that's very important. The second point that is very important is I speak here, maybe people looking at us don't understand. I speak here from the perspective of a person for a long time. We had to fight for TB, and we had to fight for people that are survivors to have a voice and to have the strength to stand up and demand the best care for them. And we are now finally, in the year 2021, in July, we have networks in most of the countries. We have TB survivors platforms. We have national Stop TB partnerships. We have basically a web of TB survivors worldwide. And it's important because shoulder to shoulder, we will be able to demand for the tools, to demand for access. But more than that, to support each other to go through stigma, to go to isolation, go through everything that tuberculosis means. And reading your book, you get inspired, you get scared, you get happy, you get afraid, but you are happy that it's possible, right? So I am infected with TB as well. I have moments when I'm worried as a mother, what's gonna happen? But then I'm going like, but there are millions that went through this, and you wrote a book. I understand that there are some other that are, and we will try to do this as Stop TB Partnership. I understand there are 2 sisters from Afghanistan that actually also decided to write a book. So and it's so amazing because it's about ladies. Both you and Paulina are 2 ladies. So women rock. Yes, absolutely. Yay, women rock. And we'll always we'll always succeed. So my last point, because with me it's difficult to start and to make sure I have connection. Now I can speak, now I am stable. So what is very important is to make sure that it is about a book. I want people to understand that stigma is a real thing in TB. And I know for sure that any of the TB people, any of the TB women, you, Handa, Paulina, and the hundreds of people like you can explain much better than anybody else. And that we as medical doctors, I didn't go through the disease, but I try to be very empathic. But as much love and empathy I can have, nothing can be compared with going through the disease. And that's why we need to listen. To be able to put in place TB programs that avoid stigma, we need to listen and embrace and have everyone with us in all this, situation that we are dealing with. As Stop TB Partnership, we plan to give the book, as your friend and you, Handa, know, to the events and to people to get inspired. I will encourage all our staff to read it, and it's an amazing book. Handa, congratulations. I know you. We never met in person. I hope we will meet and do an in-person launch. I know Paulina is there, and it's very cool because I see here that there is a guy saying, "I am the only man in the audience." I don't know, sir, but if you are, amazing that you are here with us. So I will stop here to give you time, Handa, to answer some questions that people will have. I'm happy to be part of this, and I congratulate you and everyone else. And, we will end TB by 2030, as my colleague and board member Timur says. Go, Handa, and go, all TB survivors. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lucica, so much for this. And I wanted to quickly say that I also tell a lot about this, that when we are in a room full of decision makers, we should always be asking ourselves, do we have the people who are going through this challenge we're trying to resolve in the room, who will say their words, right, to affect the decision making? Because basically, these people are making decisions on our behalf, for our future, for our bodies, for our souls, right? So we need to be in the decision-making room. And Dr. Lucica is the perfect example decision maker who is exemplifying that by including myself, including Paulina, including Timur, all the TB survivors in this endeavor. So I hope all the decision makers in this virtual room, and hopefully other leaders who will watch this video, take away this message. Please ask yourself this question when you are in a decision-making room. Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Lucica, for highlighting the movement that women have been making in this whole process and this journey. I think it's really important for us to continue highlighting those voices and making women feel empowered, because in many societies across the world, women don't feel empowered to use their voice for basic human rights. And so I think your point and your parallel to this was just spot on. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we did get a chance to talk about the first 2 winners, the person commenting for number 13 and 18. And now I think, Handa, if you have a lucky number, what's your favorite number?
5. That is a funny story because, as I said, like I am like at this what's the word? Like I set goals and I really work hard to achieve that, right? Go-getter, yeah, that's the word. And 5 in Mongolia is actually for A. I don't know in other countries if it has the same like numerical system for grading. So basically 5 is like the highest mark, and then 4 is the next, and then 3 is the next. And I was a kid who always pursued that 5 from teachers, and so I just always loved number 5. Okay. I know it's a nerd thing to say, but yeah.
It's not, and honestly, if you wouldn't have explained it, I wouldn't have known, because the grading systems are different across the globe. So I love that. I think that's so cool. We are actually going to, for those winners that we have announced, Talmoon is going to put them on the screen for us to see. And I just want to say, we'll reach out to you individually to figure out how we can best ship these books to you. So if you don't see any messages immediately, be sure to stay on until the very end so that we can communicate with you and get you your free copy. I'm so excited. Before we wrap things up, we do actually have some time for questions from the audience. If Timur, you want to come back on the screen and kind of participate in that, I know that you've been looking at those questions that we've talked about, and I'll let you take things away. Timur, are you there? Okay, yeah, let's add him to the screen, and then we can take
Thank you. Yes, I was sitting there like, oh, I'm here. Yeah, so it was really a nice moment when Luchika said there is one man in the audience, and then all the comments started like, I'm a man, I'm here, I have a man next to me. Yeah, that's what it is, guys. Yeah, get used to that. Yeah, being a minority. I'm telling you, I'm the only man right here on the screen, and it's the rest is all women, which is, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. I believe that women rock and should rock. So. Yeah, but in terms of questions, bummer, we don't have any questions. There are just congratulations, go Honda, go. I'm looking forward to reading the book. Oh, when I can get a copy, all this, and no questions. I even posted a comment saying like, guys, you can ask questions. No questions, which means if you guys are not asking the question, okay, we have a question. Okay. We have a question from Hillary S. What was the publishing process like? Was there a lot of interest in your story, or did you have to be extremely proactive to find a publisher? That's a good one.
Very good question. Thank you, Hillary, my wonderful colleague from the IRC. And actually, we are the co-chairs of our Women at Work group in our HQ in New York. So a fellow feminist and a fellow colleague. So in terms of publishing process, I had to be proactive. So I actually, my story, how I decided to write this book logistically, right, is when I was scrolling my LinkedIn, I'm very active on LinkedIn, I saw a woman named Billy Tufshunbayır. I think she's actually in the audience. She is one of the few Mongolian authors who wrote a book on Amazon, and she actually became a best-selling author. And I saw her story, and I was just really inspired. Her story was about how she emigrated from Mongolia to the United States. I reached out to her, and I wanted to pick her brain and just hear about the publishing process. And that's how she connected me to her publisher. I grabbed a phone with the publishing director, Eric Koster, who might also be in the audience, and discussed about my ideas. Initially, my idea was to write a book about learning English or studying abroad. And then Eric Koster actually told me, do you have a significant moment in your life that really influenced you? And that's when I really started asking myself the tough questions and then came up with my topic. So just to answer your question in a nutshell, I had to be proactive. I reached out to many people. I would say that's actually my main style. Being proactive is really important. Thank you, Hillary, for the question.
And then we have actually a bunch of questions. You see, you should have put me on the screen earlier so that I said like, guys, come on, bring your questions. Because we have a bunch of questions now, and I'm sorry, we will probably need to stay a little bit over time, but there are some really good questions. So the next one is from Katie Hadlock. she says, I am a nurse and I'd love to hear your advice on how medical professionals can best support people experiencing TB and going through treatment. I think it's a very good one.
Yes, very much so. Thank you, Katie, for the question. Another colleague from the IRC, thank you. Medical professionals, they have a huge role to play in really helping to destigmatize this disease and really encouraging their patients. And one of the ways to do that is empathy, really putting yourself in the shoes of those people who are going through this horrendous disease, right? With months, sometimes years of chemotherapy that has really bad side effects in many different parts of your body, right? Starting from liver and many side effects. So it's really difficult for people who are going through that. And on top of that, it's a stigmatized illness. So they're going through shame and silence. So just really knowing that background, that TB is this kind of disease, and I'm a medical professional in this. So I need to embrace, this unique sides of things, and I need to really put extra effort to empathize and to deliver this humanized approach, human-centered approach. And another aspect, unfortunately, in many developing countries, medical professionals who are working in stigmatized illnesses are stigmatized themselves. So sometimes they are also the victims of stigma. They also feel stigmatized. So there's this double stigmatization layer, right? The medical professionals are also experiencing, patients are also experiencing. So they're not connecting each other, right? Because both of them are struggling with this issue. And also TB field is unfortunately very understaffed. Medical students tend not to choose stigmatized illnesses to specialize in. So there are a lot of lack of staff, so they're always overburdened. So there are a lot of these structural issues as well. So what we need to do is really empathize. And of course, we need also policy and structural support from the government to incentivize those students, to provide extra support or financial, technical support. And also another thing I really found important is psychological support, because TB's medications have a documented side effects on emotional well-being. So really making sure that we are coupling the physical treatments along with psychological treatment is something I always wanted that TB medical professionals introduce and advocate for. So thank you, Katie, for the questions.
Thank you, Handa. Those are quite important messages, and not just for the healthcare workers, but also for policymakers, because unfortunately, health workers are often the hostage of the system. They are overburdened. They are overstressed. They are, burning out very often. And how can you spend enough time with every patient when you have a queue waiting outside? So clearly, there are lots of challenges. And I think you put it really well. Handa, there are a few other questions. I will be asking until you tell me, Timur, just stop it. We don't have any more time. So can I go for another one?
Okay, let's go for another one because we have only 2 minutes. And then I would love to give some concluding remarks. And
Okay, so I will just take one. And because there was a follow-on question like what next, I think you spoke about it already, but let me now maybe bring the question of Emily Garcia. What was the writing process like? Did you find it empowering, therapeutic to reflect on your journey?
Thank you, Emily. My colleague from the IRC. Today, my IRC colleagues are very active in supporting me. Thank you, as always. I really appreciate it. Emily, that's a great question. So it was actually a mixture. It wasn't only empowering, it was also actually re-traumatizing in certain parts, because I had to remember a lot of unpleasant experiences and feelings and shame and all that. I had to basically restore everything and then just make sense of it and put them into paper, right? So that process itself was a bit challenging, but the empowering side definitely overweighed the challenging part. So I really pushed through, and actually like those parts that I really struggled with came across more powerful. I heard that from my beta readers. So I would say the writing process was a very combination of both. So since we are running out of time, let's let's give some concluding remarks, and then we will share. Tilmong, if you don't mind sharing the winners while I speak, that would be great, and then we can quickly announce them at the end. So as concluding remarks, I just wanted to say thank you all for joining, and it means the world to me, and I just couldn't believe myself that I've become an author. So thank you for being with me every step of the way. And I just want to conclude this event with the message that I started with, which is there's a lot of unlearning to do for all of us to continue growing. Cultural norms, toxic norms, assumptions, belief systems, blind spots, many things to unlearn, because sometimes we push ourselves to keep learning, but we don't necessarily spend time on unlearning. So I hope you take some time to reflect and unlearn those toxic belief systems, toxic norms, those assumptions, and really advocate for those in need and empathize. So thank you again for joining. And the second winner is Rachel Coleman. So my former supervisor from the World Bank. Congratulations. Who's the first winner? The first winner is Sot Bitlik Minsachen. Wow, he is a Mongolian friend of mine. Congrats, Sot Bitlik. And the third person is Tilmong. Drum roll. Dr. Jane Stead. Oh my God. So Dr. Stead actually was my beta reader for my book journey. And Sabrina actually mentioned Dr. Stead at the beginning. We met in Dr. Stead's class. Thank you, Dr. Stead, for all your help, and congrats. We will individually reach out to you all to give your free books. And thank you again for joining this event. Thank you to my organizers, Sabrina, Timur, Paulina, Oyuka, Tilmung. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you again for joining.
Waking up in your house on a San Francisco street. We do out all the nasty weather, and it's something funny, you and me. Waking up in your house on a San Francisco street. We tune out all the nasty weather, then it's something funny, you and me. San Francisco street, you and me. Something funny, you and me. You and me. San Francisco street, you and me. Oh. I don't have a crystal ball. There's no way that I could have